What is up, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Hockeytown University. You are here with me once again, Zack, and once again, you are with my lovely co-hosts, Derek and Matt. What's up, boys? How you guys doing today?
Hey, Zack, doing lovely as always on this beautiful snowy day on the west side of the state. Don't know what's going on over there, but I could definitely be over this right now.
Snow the majority of the day, but nothing that I can complain about. I like the snow, so I know I'm weird. What about you, Leslie? What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing good myself. I'm also getting snowed in just the same as you boys are. Happy to be using our new tools today to record, so hopefully going forward we will have no issues, maybe hopefully less issues, because you never really have no issues with anything in life. But yeah, fingers crossed, definitely fingers crossed. But no, I'm doing good. This is a little bit of a do-over for us because our recording yesterday got screwed over, but we're coming back at it with you guys again, and we're gonna pump out some content for you today.
So without further ado, just like Leslie just broke the news, yes, we are proud to announce that we have switched our platforms on which we record on. So hopefully this allows us to have less technical issues than what we have had in the past. And we also wanted to apologize for this episode coming out late. Like Leslie said, we recorded the whole episode Sunday night, and technical difficulties struck us once again. So, we pray and hope that we don't have to deal with any more, but we'll see. Welcome to 2023, everyone. It's fun. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We want to cover some news first, and one of the bigger news is that Max Bultman of The Athletic says that he spoke with Sean Horkoff and confirms that Marco Kasper will indeed be in North America playing hockey next season. And question to you boys, I want to know, where do you expect to see Kasper? Do you think he's going to start in Grand Rapids, or do you think he starts with the Red Wings on opening night? And I'll let Derek go first, and do not talk about Sebastian Cossa.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. This is a new recording, new day. I won't get my players mixed up this time. But yeah, with Kasper, he's a young player. He's doing amazing. I love to see him play right now. He's doing great over there in that league. But at the same time, it's bigger ice over there. It's going to be a lot more of a quicker game over here and a lot more physical, I would say. Not saying he's not used to that right now over in that league, but getting him some time in the Grand Rapids would be a lot better than just throwing him into the Red Wings right away. Give him some time, get his legs loose out there, get used to the game itself. Then, once in a while, maybe towards halfway through the season, bring him up, see what he can do. But I wouldn't push him too hard until the following year. But I'm really excited to see what they can do in Grand Rapids, that's for sure.
Without a doubt. What about you, Leslie? I know that you're a big hopeful for Kasper, the friendly ghost over there. So tell us what you think about the guy.
The Calder season is officially loading, boys, and it's almost here. We've laid the foundation for it. Now he's just going to make it happen. But in all seriousness, I think out of all of the skaters that are going to be coming up either from the minors or over from Europe, in his case that he is, I think he's probably got the best shot to make the team straight out of camp. But it really wouldn't surprise me if he spends a year, maybe even just part of the year over in Grand Rapids, because I know that a guy like him, he's played in Europe his whole life, and he's just got done with a really strong SHL season. And, as you all know, the SHL is a men's league, so he's already light years ahead of really all of our other prospects who are playing down in the minors, or in junior too. But it's definitely true that coming over, he needs to get used to the North American ice. The ice over here is smaller, so the game is much more fast-paced and higher scoring than the SHL is. But I think seeing what his game is and how he's played in the SHL, I think he has a lot of skills that will translate very well to the North American game. It just may be a case of whether or not he makes the team. He might have a little bit of a slow start, just trying to get used to the pacing in North America, but I expect big things from Marco Kasper. And when I say Calder season, that's not me saying he's Calder or bust. I would be overjoyed if he wins the Calder, but I fully expect that he won't do it. But yeah, I'm excited to see some Marco Kasper.
Now, do you think the decision will come down to Mrs. Lalonde, much like Mrs. Blashill with Lucas Raymond?
Well, I would hope to think that Lalonde is a little bit of a smarter coach than that, and he can actually watch him play in camp and say, yeah, this guy's ready. So I hope not, but it'll come down to somebody, I guess.
No, and you're both absolutely right. Yeah, I just wanted to toss out a funny right there. But for comparison, for Marco Kasper, for Draft Plus 1 year, playing out of the Swedish Hockey League, he's played in 52 games, 23 points, 8 goals, 15 assists. And for comparison, going up against Lucas Raven, who also came out of the Swedish Hockey League in his Draft Plus 1 season, he played in 34 games, putting up 6 goals, 12 assists for 18 points before getting injured, finishing out his season. I think that's a great comparable that you can make to say that there is a really good chance that Marco Kasper could make the Red Wings opening night roster come day one of the season. So, and the one thing that definitely helps out with Marco Kasper, it's his style of play. If you do get the opportunities to ever watch Swedish Hockey League games, especially with Rogla BK, the team that he plays for, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I'm not Swedish, so I apologize. But center is a premium asset that the Red Wings desperately need. I know that you have players like Larkin, Kopp, Rasmussen, Veleno, maybe some other players I'm not thinking of that don't typically play center but can. This is a player that the Red Wings are building to play center for the long run. So there is a good opportunity that he comes in and plays just because of that, but also because of his style of play, like Leslie was saying. He's someone who kind of has a little bit of that Tyler Bertuzzi grit in him, who's not afraid to get into the tougher areas and get into those scrums and get up into people's faces, and that's something that we kind of saw in the first Boston Bruins game on Saturday, that whenever something happened to Dominic Kubalik, who got ran into the boards twice in one sequence, not one player from the Red Wings went up and tried to do anything to those players. So, I do think, that there's an opportunity for him to make it and succeed with the Red Wings if he did. But there's nothing wrong with him starting out in Grand Rapids either, getting acclimated to that North American smaller ice like you guys have as well. Leslie, next topic is a little treat for you, and I don't know if you heard this, but Carter Mazur was actually nominated for Defensive Forward of the Year in the NCHC. Thoughts on that, Leslie?
Yeah, I like right when you said that you had a little tidbit for me before we started recording, I knew exactly what you were going to go to, and I actually kind of did have this go over my head a little bit, but I think it was it Wing Wheel you heard that on, the Wing Wheel pod? Shout out to them.
Yes, it was, yes.
So, I believe it was Brad on there, Brad Crisco. He was joking that looking at the roster and after trading Filip Hronek, there's really no one in the system that can slot into that right D. Guess who shoots right and just won Best Defensive Forward in NCAA? Carter Mazur.
Sergei Perron.
Hey, buddy, you want to start being a defenseman? But yeah, it's great. I mean, this whole thing is really just, recognizing his defensive game, which I think is very underrated. Like, obviously, he is a goal scorer first, and that's what you look at. Those are the stats that jump off the page whenever you look up his Hockey DB or his Elite Prospect page. But, yeah, he's going to be a very effective two-way forward. I would like him to start maybe just for one season in Grand Rapids and really just have the coaching staff there focus on that part of his game, because it's very clear that the goal scoring is coming to him naturally. That's not even an issue for him. He's got a very gifted shot, and I have no doubt in the world that he's going to be producing wherever he goes. But this part of his game, definitely, I love seeing that shine through and it being recognized. And I think the next level, if he can continue to hone that, he's going to be one hell of a hockey player.
As the puck was dropping, so it made us love it. So I hope you guys all loved it too. But I got to ask you, what did you guys think about seeing Bert being back, especially in Detroit, wearing the black and yellow jersey? And also, what do you think of him being out on the ice? What do you guys think about his opportunities that he had?
Matt, you can go first.
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've seen with him in his brief tenure right now with the Boston Bruins, is he's definitely struggled a little bit to get things going. And that may be just because there's so much depth in Boston and there's scoring coming from everywhere, or it could just be that it's still a fresh trade and he's trying to get his role carved out in the lineup. But it was good to see him back. I really love the tribute video that they did for him. You know, I can't lie, I brought a single tear to my eye. And I'm not an emotional man, so it takes a lot to do that to me. But it was nice to see him back in the building. I can't lie. I know it would have come at the Red Wings' expense, and we ideally don't ever want goals scored on us, but it would have been a hell of a moment for him to score a goal. His first goal as a Bruin, back in the building that he spent his time in for 7 years. So it was nice seeing him back. You know, I wish him luck in the playoffs. I still hate Boston with every fiber of my being, but if he can average a hat trick every game in the playoffs and the Bruins have a second round exit, that's probably the most ideal scenario for me. But it's good to see him back. It still hurts, but I'll root for him wherever he goes. So there you go.
So, Derek, same question to you. How did you feel about Bert being back in Detroit wearing a black and yellow jersey? How do you think of him being out on the ice as well?
Well, I was one of the few people, well, I won't say few, one of the many people that didn't want to see Bert get traded off anyways, but we all kind of knew it was going to happen, and it was touching to see him back in the rink, being back at Little Caesars where he was homebred, all that goodness right there with that little video that they gave to him too. Like Leslie said, brought some tears to everybody's eyes out there. It was a wonderful little thing they did for him. Unlike what Leslie said, though, I'm pretty happy he still didn't score on us. I love the guy. He definitely has some talent over there with Boston, and he's on a good team to potentially win the Cup this year, but at the same time, he is definitely still trying to find his way over there. But what can you say right now? It's been only a couple weeks since he's been traded, only a few practices with the team, especially a top six team that you've been always probably trained to, okay, go out, original six, rivalry, right now, let's go, fight each other. So it's pretty hard to do that switch around, especially from going to hate somebody, going to love somebody like that real quick, especially after 6 years of fighting the same people. It'll be a little bit of a transition for him, for sure. That's all you can do right now. But hopefully in the next month, we'll see him just turn around on the Boston team, start producing like we know he can, and hopefully it was a good fit for him over there.
Yeah, not going to lie. I honestly was really happy not to see him score, even though I did place a bet on him to score. So don't take my betting advice. We're not that type of podcast, so just take us on our hockey talk. I promise that will do just fine. But, yeah, I thought it was kind of weird seeing him in the black and yellow jersey, but my thoughts of him on the ice, just overall in the two games, he didn't go unnoticed. He had his opportunities, especially in the front of the net. He did very much what Tyler Bertuzzi does. And that's the person who gets into the net. He's the person who will throw the hits around. You know, he's not afraid to get in there and cause some havoc. You know, he did that. But it definitely reminded me why I hate to say, you know, maybe it would have been different had he scored on us. I would have been like, okay, I miss him a little bit more. But him not scoring on us, it made me realize, okay, I think we're just going to be fine without him. No offense to Tyler Bertuzzi. I love him, and I loved him being a Red Wing, but I think the draft pick in the long run is really going to help us, whether if that's for a prospect or you trade that pick for a player. So, you know. Moving on, the Red Wings were able to squeeze out a win in one of their back-to-back games. That was with them on Sunday, and that handed the Boston Bruins their 10th loss of the season. That was a 5-3 game. Hellberg started on Saturday, making 35 saves on 38 shots, getting a 9.21 save percentage for the loss. That was in a 3-2 loss. Husso then started on Sunday. He made 30 saves out of the 33 shots with a 9.09 save percentage and struggled after getting hit in the head in the third period by Nosek. I don't know about you guys, but real quick, you know, for someone like me who sees that when it comes to a goaltender, Husso did go down for a little bit. It didn't look like it was a huge hit, but definitely a clip where the player was coming in pretty quick, caught him off guard, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, you know what? This is it. This is where Boston's going to start catching up, and it's going to make me on the edge of my seat. And they did. That was when the Red Wings were up 4-1, and, you know, Boston came back and pushed, and it was 4-3 at that point. So do you think Husso should have been pulled at that point? Real quick, yes or no, and you can give like a 2-story sentence on that. Leslie?
I guess it's hard to tell. Like, yeah, he let a few stinkers in, but they were some high danger chances for sure. It's not like he was letting some softies in, but I think if he really was not feeling very well, he would have skated over and said, "Hey, coach, I'm all fucked up right now. My head hurts. I have a tummy ache. I need a water. Go ahead and put Hellberg in." But no, I don't think it was an issue.
Yeah, and Derek looks a little frozen on my end, so I think I'll answer next, unless he can hear me. But for me, when I see something like that, I instantly think, I know that the player thinks that he shouldn't go out, but one of those situations, I'm just surprised that the league didn't just say, hey, we need to have him check concussion protocol situations. So, Derek, your thoughts on it? Do you think that they should have pulled Husso after taking that small little hit to the head?
Nah, it's hockey. You get hit all the time. He probably takes slap shots harder to the head than he's taking that hit. You just gotta walk him off sometimes. You got protection, you're good to go, unless you're seeing like 10 players out on the ice.
What Derek said.
10 players on your own team.
Hear him once
I should say there's always 10 players on the ice.
Yeah, technical difficulties. Once again, it's just always going to happen, folks. We're not cutting this one out.
This podcast will never go 100% smooth, so don't ever expect that.
It's all in a day's work. But moving on to my next question, do you believe, after seeing the result that Hellberg put up against the Boston Bruins in the game on Saturday with a .921 save percentage, 35 saves on 38 shots, do you believe Hellberg can continue to play like this down the stretch if he gets the opportunities to play more in the last 16 games and possibly earn himself a one-year contract extension? Leslie, you go first.
Yeah, I think he definitely can. What you're seeing is still really a small sample size. I think he's only at like 10 or 11 starts in the league, and this is a guy who's been on waivers twice, maybe even 3 times this season. I'm not sure how long it's been, but yeah, I think he definitely could. And the nice thing about that is, number one, there's not many great goalie options in free agency, so I think you'd rather just stick with the guys that you have, or maybe even see if Ned's ready to come in. And two, he's going to be pretty cheap. So you can sign him to really under $1 million, maybe just a little bit over $1 million for 1, maybe 2 years, I guess, depending on when you see Kosa being able to jump up to the North American, or not even North American, but the NHL level and be a backup there. I think Hellberg is serviceable at best, which, if you're talking about a backup goaltender, that's really all you need.
Derek, same question to you, if you can hear me.
I don't think he can.
Well, Derek's MIA.
Hi, Derek.
So in the meantime, it looks like that it will just be Leslie and I. Derek with Derek?
Can you hear me?
We can now.
I can hear you now, buddy. Same question. Do you believe Hellberg can? Do you think Hellberg can win himself a one-year contract extension after tonight's performance if he can keep it up with the rest of the 16 games of the season? If he can see more time to play.
Like Leslie was saying, he has a small sample size, that is for sure. But if he can keep that consistency that he played against the Bruins, that type of mentality, like what he's doing out there on the ice, yeah, easily 1 year contract, if not 2. A straight backup goalie for days, and after that extension, probably get him a full-time contract somewhere else. Definitely would be worth it to get him out there and start actually showing off what he can do.
Whoa. Not that I intended to talk a lot about goalies this episode, but I did see another video today that definitely made me want to talk about this that we didn't talk about in last night's recording. But I know that I don't know if Leslie knows who this is, but I do know that Derek does not know who this is. But Lego Rocks 99 on YouTube came out with a video saying that per Jeff Merrick, that Carter Hart may be on the trade block this offseason with the Flyers going into tear-down, rebuild mode. Would you trade for the 24-year-old netminder if you were general manager Steve Yzerman? And I'll start with this. I'll let you guys at least pull up his prospect profile and, delve into his stats. I actually had the liberty to do that earlier because I did not prepare you guys for this question. But If the price is right, I would. His best season came in 2019-20, I believe, if I'm saying this right, and I will also pull up the stats with everyone else as I'm saying this, but I think that was the year when the Philadelphia Flyers went into the playoffs and went in for a 14-game run, and he sported, I mean, he looked amazing in the playoffs, let alone the season in general. Okay, so it was the 2019-20 season. The regular season in 43 games, he had a 2.42 goals against average and a 9.14 save percentage. That year in the playoffs, in 14 games, he had a 2.23 goals against average and a 9.26 save percentage. But even before then, the season before, in his first season, 2018-19, in 31 games, he had a 2.83 goals against and a 9.17 save percentage. For someone who came in at the age of 20, that's pretty freaking good in the NHL. Goaltenders usually take a lot longer than that. So, but ever since then, since 2019-20, I mean, the following year in 2021, he played in 27 games, 3.67 goals against, and then an 8.77 save percentage. But for the last two seasons, he's been above a 9 save percentage. 2.96 this season, 9.06 right now this season as well. So, but that also comes to term with the team that he plays in, that plays in front of him. So the Flyers, obviously, like I said, going into rebuild mode. So is that someone I would take a crack at? I would. I just don't know what I would offer, and I don't know what the Flyers are offering, considering they let go Chuck Fletcher, who uses apps to decide his trades for him. So
that was great to see that.
So I'll ask you guys the same question. What would you guys do if the 24 netminder was on the market? Would you guys trade for someone like that to be the backup goalie, or for someone to fight for the number one job? Derek, before you disappear, welcome back.
I like to be like a magician. I'm here sometimes, I'm not here sometimes. It's just when you need me. But it really all depends on what I would, like, what we would get for, like, what are we trading for him, I guess. Like, what do we have to give up to get him on our team? Because as of right now, obviously, he's not a terrible goalie. We all know that. He started off really well coming into the CHL. But right now, he's just on a rough team that just isn't helping them develop at all. And just leaves them out to get dramatically crushed in net with no defense or offense. So would I take him? Yeah. I just want to know what we have to give up to Philly to get him, I would say.
Yeah, I would assume that it would probably be draft picks, considering that they do want to go into rebuild and they're kind of demoing all those players out of the system that they have currently on the roster. So, but I wouldn't worry about that too much right now. Just, I guess you kind of answered the question, but I'll ask again. What is this a player that you would go after? Someone who's 24 years old, he's cost controlled as an RFA. And he signed,
yeah,
and he's still RFA after. So yeah.
Yeah, might as well at that point. Wouldn't it be too big of a loss for us? And if we don't like him, Griffins.
Worst case, I mean, like if you're gonna have to offer up a first, and but I think it comes down to that talent doesn't just go away, right? Like it's clearly there, and it came at the age of 20 years old, and I don't think it was the Flyers team in front of him that made him good, because it clearly was there. I remember him watching him in the playoffs, and he was just phenomenal. Does he have some on-ice issues where he kind of goes up to the refs and freaks out in front of people? Yeah, sometimes, but it's not Jordan Binnington level. But Leslie, your thoughts? Is this a goaltender that you would potentially go after?
I mean, the question about going after this goaltender basically just comes down to what do you think is going to happen with Sebastian Cossa? Because you're looking at this guy who is a 24-year-old netminder, and goalies don't really enter their prime until about 26 or 27. So if you're trading for this guy, you're ideally going to want to be signing him to a longer-term contract, and you're going to make him then the franchise goaltender. I don't really think you're going to trade for this guy and give up the draft assets that Philly is asking for, which will be a lot because they're going into a rebuild. It's really not going to be a fair price for you, especially the Red Wings who have a plethora of draft picks. They're going to ask for a lot of those, maybe even a prospect. So I don't really want to trade for him. The Red Wings definitely could afford a high price on it. I mean, they have 5 picks in the first 2 rounds this year, 2 first-round picks next year. They absolutely could afford to do it, but I'd rather them use their draft picks to try and either trade for a player in the offseason or trade up in the draft. So I think if you're considering to do a trade in the offseason, this is probably at the back of my list for those options. I do like Carter Hart. I think that he could be a very solid goaltender elsewhere because, let's be honest, he's been playing in front of a beer league defensive core. I mean, Philly is really probably the only defensive core that's been worse than ours over the span of 5 years. So I think he definitely has a lot of raw talent, and I think he can really serve a team very well. And I know you didn't ask for this, but I'm just going to throw out a team that I think would be really interesting to trade for him, and it's the Seattle Kraken. I think he would fit in phenomenally with the Seattle Kraken. Young goaltender, fits their timeline. They have a whole bunch of assets future assets they can trade off for him. I know you didn't ask for that, but I just figured I'd throw one out there. But I guess that's a long-winded way of me saying no, I will not trade for him because I like Husso, and I think Kosa will be a stud, and his ceiling is higher than Carter Hart's. So there you go.
And here I thought you were going to say the Sens.
Okay, I could see that too. I don't know, first team that came up into my head, I went with.
So, moving along, continuing on with the Boston games, lots of scorers over the weekend, and not just in goals, but to name a few, the ones who scored a lot in production-wise. Dylan Larkin had 1 goal and 4 points. Andrew Kopp got a shorthanded goal and an empty net goal. Alex Chason, 2 power play goals, who currently now has 4 points in his 4 games with the Red Wings. Very impressive. So that was a good move by Steve Eisenman, to be honest with you guys. That was a late signing as well. Mo Seider.
I mean, he's been on the power play right now, too. 2 games, 2 power play goals, and that kid is killing it down low. I like the way he plays.
We'll continue talking about that here as well, yeah. Seider, 1 goal for a disgusting backhander, and that was a shorthanded goal, and finished off with 2 points. So, since I finished off with Seider, let's go ahead and talk about that. Seider also, on Saturday's game, though, took a high shot that looked like it was going to hit him in the face. Luckily, that only hit him high in the shoulder. Just rebounded, hitting him right in the chin. And I couldn't tell if he ended up getting stitches from that or not, but definitely did not look like it had felt pretty. It did not look like that it felt good either. So, Derek, how many pucks have you taken to the
He didn't need stitches. He's made of Kevlar.
Only a few. Luckily, I played with mostly a cage on my face the entire time, so only teeth I lost when my helmet got ripped off and, I got face planted by a ref. So that was great.
You poor baby, you.
I love refs ever since day one. Killing it out there.
But also, what did you guys happen to think of that beautiful backhander that Seider stole away from David Pastrnak to have a nice breakaway shorthanded, though? I mean, that took greatness. It was beautiful. Leslie looks like he has a lot to say about it.
Seider just every time I watch Seider, I think to myself, okay, this is his ceiling. This is the best he's going to look. And that's great. And then he decides the game after that to just smash through that ceiling. I mean, this guy, I don't even think I could count on one hand the amount of bad games he's had in his tenure because he's legitimately been the best player night in and night out on the ice. Defensively, I know offensively he's not scoring as much as we'd like, but he's always chipping in offense at that quarterback slot on the power play. They're just not always going in, which is, kind of the theme for the Red Wings this year. But, yeah, that backhander was like chef's kiss. I mean, you're not going to see a nicer backhand than that. And I also want to mention that backhand also came from Seider breaking up the play on that power play from David Pastrnak. So not only did he stop the power play completely, single-handedly, he also scored shorthanded. And that shot, Lucas Raymond can't even make that shot. Most players on the team can't even make that shot. I don't even know maybe Larkin made that shot, but other than him, I don't know who else could. he just blows me away every day. And if he makes under $10 million, he's going to be underpaid. I'm going to say it right now, but I do hope he makes under $10 million. That'd be great for us.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Please, Cider, please take under 10 mil. We know that all these other GMs sign their
Please listen to me.
top defensemen to high cap long term, but that's not us, buddy. So, yeah. Anyways, continuing on, Derek's boy, Chason, has been nothing but great of an addition to the team since joining and being the net front presence, since no one else on the team and the system can do it currently, since trading Bert, Sonny, and an injured Rasmussen. So I got to ask you guys, is Chason a player you could see Yzerman signing to a one-year deal to be a fourth-line power play specialist? Derek, this is your boy, so I'll let you go first.
I would love to see that right now. If he keeps up how he's playing, he's doing hard behind the net, digging deep, breaking out plays, getting plays started even. He's doing a lot, especially on that power play. Like, you don't see him too much everywhere else right now because, of course,
Derek's a little broken, so we'll just...
Yeah, that's fine. But
keep going, Derek. You're good, buddy.
Bring it home.
God, I love the internet right now. But yeah, I mean, he is a power forward, especially on the power play. So he's someone you would want to keep down there. He's a tank. He can put the puck in the net, even when people are literally pulling his stick backwards on him. I'd give him a one-year deal just to see how things turn out with us and see how the rest of the year goes out, too. He might keep putting up points the way he is. We don't know.
Yeah, as of right now, he's a point-per-game player. He's got 4 points in 4 games. That's currently on pace for 20 points in the 20 games that he would play for the rest of us. So I would love to have him on the fourth line. I don't think that we really have the depth for... I mean, we have majority prospects, so I would rather see him get more playing time than having him on the fourth line where you're secluded to 10 minutes or less every game, you know, or you're being the extra man. So, Leslie, to you as well, is this someone that you could see Yzerman signing for a one-year deal to be the net front present guy, power play guy on the fourth line?
So to be honest, when we were talking about this topic last night, I was interested in doing it. Now that I think about it, I think there's a lot, maybe not a lot, but there's a few prospects who could break into the Red Wings lineup next year. One of them could be Kasper, and I think he'd be very good in that net front role. So I think I'm really leaning more towards just letting one of those guys that you've been drafting and developing take over that spot and having them excel in it, because you'd rather your young guys who are ideally going to be here most, if not their whole careers, you will want to see them get some legs under them rather than an NHL veteran who you've just had for, what is it, like, it's going to be like 20-ish games or something this season. I think he could re-sign really under $1 million, probably league minimum, so it would be a good value signing. But I think ultimately I would rather have one of our young kids who we've drafted take over that spot.
For sure, and I definitely see where you're coming from with that. And, you know, when and if you were to sign Chason, at least from my perspective, you know, that is someone that you're probably going to sign to a league minimum contract because, you know, there's a reason why we, you know, traded for him when he was on an AHL roster technically at the time. So, yeah, you know, that's the whole point of doing it, right? And there is a world where you could have Marco Kasper in the power play. I don't know about net front presence right away if he did make the team. And I don't know about power play 1. Well, yeah, maybe for power play 2. But, you know, I think it just comes down to how comfortable that you are with throwing Marco Kasper into that mix to being in front of a goalie like that who's not the biggest guy, you know, but Alex Chason, you know, you look at him, he's 6'4", 207 pounds. I believe Marco Kasper is like 6'1", maybe 6'2", or something like that. So he's still got a lot.
6'1", 192 pounds,
yeah,
baby.
I mean, like,
I'm staring at it.
I mean, Derek, I think you're around that height, aren't you?
I mean, he has like a half inch on me. I'll be honest, I'm not 6'1", but I am about 192 pounds happy.
So what is your take on something like
that's
that?
all Bud Light, though.
I mean, like, how often do you really see 6'1", 192-pound players going in the net front presence? And if they do, how often is it successful in that rate?
I mean, it's a very useful tool. I would admit, like, especially being that person up front. You need to be big. You need to be have a presence up there, mainly because you're going to go up against a defenseman who is basically the same size as Marco Kasper here. 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds. That's a pretty average thing for a D. And being that same size, you're not going to get pushed around, checked to the ground, smashed around like everybody else who's, say, 5'10", 170, 175 pounds. Those people can't do that much up front because they're just getting tossed. Throw someone as his size up there, it does a little bit of mayhem, keeps another massive body in front of the net for screens, and it does a lot more damage. Honestly, I could see Marco Kasper getting a little spot, like you said, probably PP2, but not PP1 yet, but could eventually get up in there.
I do like where your head is at, though, Leslie. Like, you're trying to think outside the box, but I do think that that is something that you can utilize in the future for sure. I think if you just let him gain a little bit more weight, a little bit more muscle, so that way he doesn't get dummied, kind of like how Derek said, those defensemen are, probably going to be older. They're probably going to be more mature in the NHL game than Kasper is at that time, especially if it is next season. So, but I do like where your head is at for that, for sure,
And just keep in mind that he's only like 19 years old, so he's still going to be growing, I think. I actually don't know when you stop growing. I remember I was like 17 or 18 maybe, and I went to like get a physical, and the doctor was like, all right, Matt, so you're 5'8" right now, and this is probably as tall as you're going to get. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is bullshit. I want my money back. You're lying to me. I'm not going to get any taller than this.
I'm pretty sure when the Red Wings drafted Elmer Soderblom, he was 6'6" or 6'5". Now he's 6'8". So,
yeah.
There's still room.
It's all genetics, though, man.
No, for sure. 100%. But, that's pretty much all we have for the Boston weekend extravaganza. Like we said, they lost the first game 3-2 on Saturday. They won 5-3 with the empty netter thanks to Cop. So that was great. So I just kind of wanted to finish off with a few questions. Some of these are new. Some of them I already asked the boys last night, so they're well prepared. But what was your overall take from the weekend, from the two games? As a whole, what you like that you saw from the Red Wings? What did you not like that you saw from the Red Wings? So I'll let Leslie go ahead and start with that. What did you think about the whole weekend madness overall, buddy?
I think overall, even though it wasn't a clean sweep of both those games, I liked their effort overall. There were definitely some points in really both of the games where it looked like the Red Wings were chasing the play most of the time and almost even looked like they were on the penalty kill, because they just couldn't get out of their zone. But I really liked the level of compete that they showed in those games overall. Boston is a very physical team who's going to try and out-muscle you, and they can definitely outscore you. They have scores literally everywhere in the lineup and on the ice. So I think Detroit did a really good job of answering the bell there and kind of going shot for shot with the best team in the league, and maybe when it's all said and done, one of, if not the best regular season teams the league has ever seen. So the fact that they stole a win from them, that's above what I was expecting. That's tremendous. And really, it was a beatdown on that Sunday game for most of the game. It was like late in the second period when Boston finally scored one. So that was a very good effort. One of the best efforts of the season for Detroit so far. And I also brought this up on last night's episode that unfortunately is now lost to the history of time. Detroit really does have a tendency of playing up or playing down to their competition. So as much as I loved seeing how they performed in this game, it also kind of irritates me that they drop games, like easy to win games against Philly, Columbus, Arizona, because that's just kind of what the Wings do. They play whatever team is playing them, they play their game. So yeah, overall, it was a great effort. I would love to see that really same level of effort forward this season and just finish it out strong.
Yeah, for sure. No, you made some really good points there, and I'll go next. I thought the overall effort from both the games, the loss and the win, and maybe even more so towards the loss, I thought that the competitiveness really was there. I was expecting a huge blowout, and And as most back-to-back games for the Red Wings have been this season, the second game is always the worst. So I figured, at least the Red Wings did a really good effort the first game. Now let's watch them get blown out the second game. And that didn't happen either. They actually put out a better offensive production the second game, which was amazing. The only thing that I had about the first game was that the Red Wings just lost the ability to lock them down in the second period like they did in the first period. And that's ultimately what helped Detroit lose that game, was the fact that they couldn't lock them down in the second. And then too many power plays given up to the Boston Bruins, and that ultimately led to their demise in losing that game. And like I said, Hellberg, he put up a fantastic outing with the amount of saves, the 35 saves and the 38 shots, So, but yeah, I just love the fact that they are able to compete high with these teams, especially the Boston Bruins, being the top team in the league. I think that speaks volumes to them, and that speaks volumes about Steve Yzerman knowing what he needed to not add and take away from this team, because he did take away at the trade deadline, but what this team can be even while moving out key fixtures in the lineup. So, overall, great weekend. I know that you lost and you won, but it's a win for us because we're still technically a rebuilding team, and being able to come away with a win 5-3 like that against a top tier team, that's huge. And even the loss 3-2, that's still really good. So, two great games, honestly, from the Red Wings as a whole. I was very impressed with them. There were a lot of players that caught my eye. Berggren, I know that I didn't speak on him. Veleno looked really good. That whole entire third line looked good with Zadina as well. Andrew Kopp's finally coming back to form after that surgery. That's something that I really liked. Defensively and on the faceoffs, he was fantastic. Just overall, the whole entire team looked really good. I would love to ask Derek. I'm just waiting for him to unmute himself and put himself on camera. But if that's not possible, then let's move on to the next question, Leslie. And for that is, if the Red Wings are able to stand up and go toe-to-toe with the Boston Bruins, do you think that they are still considered a playoff team, or does that mean that Boston still has flaws in their lineup and their system?
Can I say neither?
You can say whatever you want.
I honestly don't really. Yeah, I can't really get behind either one of those points. I think it's basically, the whole thing was just, I guess you could say that there are flaws in Boston's game, and really the one thing I could point to is they, I think, underestimated the Wings a little bit, because the Wings were they just got out of, I think it was a 5 or 6 game losing streak when they beat Chicago the game before that. So I think the Bruins were looking at this team, and they even really did struggle against Chicago too in that game. So I think the Bruins were looking at the Red Wings team and just kind of thinking, oh, we can just kind of sit back on our heels. This will be an easy 2 wins, which I kind of feel like at this stage in the regular season for the Bruins, that's kind of all they really need to do. I mean, they have a playoff spot already locked up. They're the first team to even clinch a playoff spot this season. So I think it's really just like, it's kind of like when all those Cup champ Lightning teams, like late in the regular season after just dominating all the competition, were just like, all right, we got like 15 games left. I mean, we don't really need to prove anything else. We're going to just kind of save our energy for the playoffs and, just jet right ahead and try and go on a run. So I really think that's what you can contribute Boston's effort to, I guess. But at the same time, I don't want to take anything away from the Red Wings. They played 2 very solid games, and they really took it to Boston. So, yeah, I think this is more just Boston saying, we're not really concerned about wins and losses at this point. Like, sure, I guess breaking the regular season record would be cool, but there's only one award that teams care about, and it's lifting the Stanley Cup. So I think that's all that's on their mind right now, and deservedly so, because they're the favorite.
This isn't, when I say this, before you go, Derek, and I'm going to ask you the same question, but I got to ask this question. I'm just kind of speaking out loud, and no one really has to answer this, but when you are a team like Boston, is it really that difficult to continue on with the motivation in your locker room to keep doing well, knowing that you have already locked in your spot in the playoffs and that you are a clear ahead of everyone else in the standings to even win the President's Trophy. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I was in the Boston Bruins place, kind of like you said, Leslie, like it's almost kind of like the Red Wings, how they overplay to the talent that they're up against, but then they always downplay to the talent that they're playing against as well. So like Boston's kind of like doing the same thing. And how do you do that as a top tier team, you know? So that's one question that I have on my mind thinking about it is like, I wonder what they do to kind of continuously motivate themselves when you do go up against the teams like the Red Wings who clearly don't want to keep on losing. They very much want to win, at least the players do. But for us as a fan base, it's like, what are you guys doing? Lose. Going for a Bentard, as Derek would say. That's your cue, buddy. So, my question to you, Derek, if the Red Wings were able to stand up and go toe-to-toe with the Bruins, do you think that they are a playoff team, or does it show that Boston still has flaws?
Well, to go off what I said last night and still to be a Debbie Downer on Leslie over there, I think it's both. We had Boston, who's a team that is pretty much getting put together again. It's, of course, best team in the league. They really don't need much help right now. But again, they did some trades. They're putting some people in new places. So, of course, you've got to have some things you got to tweak here and there to keep becoming the team that you want to be. But at the same time, we got the Red Wings, who obviously can produce. We got goals. We are beating teams that we probably shouldn't be beating. But as Leslie said, we play down to the teams that we shouldn't be playing down to, and we play up to the teams that we should be playing up to. We have to find that nice middle ground and just play our game. And if we keep doing that, we find the stride that we could actually work with and like continue on, and then we could be a playoff team. And we just got to keep the same momentum going that we play against Boston that we would play against, say, Ottawa in a back-to-back game again like them. We shouldn't have lost against Ottawa the way we did, but we did. No one's happy about that one, but we obviously see what we can do against a team like Boston. So put those two games together, we would have destroyed Ottawa. But obviously, we just got to play to our level and not the teams that we're playing against right now. That'll get us to the Cup. That'll show that the Red Wings are a contender again. But to answer your question, I'd say both, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say, I like how you broke it down like that, like they had a bunch of new players that they brought in via trades, the deadline, so a lot of those players still have to get used to the system. Tyler Bertuzzi, while he looked good out there, he still doesn't fully know the system yet, right? Like that was probably his third or fourth game. So there's still a lot of learning to do. He still has to know a decent amount of the players and how they like to play, where they want the puck passed to, whether if it's in the front or the back foot, for those 1-Ts, whatever it is, just the silly things, which one's the blue Gatorade, which one's water, so he doesn't splash his hair with blueness, Tyler Bertuzzi with blue hair, Goth, Bert, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, no thank you. But
he might look good with some...
Call him Tyler Libtuzzi. Take that shit to California. We don't want that over here in Detroit.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, do I think the Red Wings are a playoff team? I know last night that I probably said yes, but thinking about it again, I'm going to lean towards no. I don't think that they have the overall to do it. It just really isn't there, and they have to ride on Husso as well. And that comes down to Hellberg, can Hellberg play 4 more games and actually win all 4 games? I don't know, because he's only played 12, and he's probably only won 3 or 4 of those now. So it's just really tough. So I would say no on the Wings being a playoff team, but I do think, yes, that the Boston Bruins still have flaws in their system that they need to just correct and tweak, like Derek mentioned. My last question for you boys, now that we have seen it for a few games, how do you guys feel about Ben Sherratt being on the right side? And do you see him in that spot next year, or does Eiserman go out and get someone via free agency or via trade? Leslie, I'll let you go first because Derek's broken again.
And you'll let me go first because you know how much I absolutely love talking about Ben Sherratt.
Yes.
But this may come as a surprise to most of the listeners in our audience, but I'm actually not going to shit all over Ben Sherratt in this because I think ever since he's moved over to the right side, even though it's been a necessity, he's looked pretty good. Pretty good for Ben Sherrod is still below serviceable, but he's looked better. I would really like to see him at the right D slot moving forward. Number one, because we just need warm bodies for that spot. We have no replacements in our pipeline that are even close to making the NHL. They're all long shots, and in the list of free agency, it's very, very shallow. And I think if you're going to want to get a right D there, you're going to have to slightly overpay, which I really don't think you can justify doing just because you need warm bodies. So I would like to see him stay at right D, just going forward until we can either find another replacement in free agency down the road, or we can even draft a right D in this coming draft. There's good options at right D here, so the answer may be coming this summer. So you never know. But I like what I've seen from him at right D, and I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think, ever since moving to the right D, it's been nothing but greatness. He's not blowing assignments. He's not going for a player over there when he should be over here. So that's great to see from him. Being paired with Mata, we saw that with Perron, that helped Perron thrive. So it's doing the same thing for Sherrod. So, he's not putting up offensive numbers, but he's doing exactly what we needed him to do, was kind of be the defensive guy to allow whoever he's paired with to put out that offensive production. So not saying that Mata is doing it either, but Mata has shown us so far this season that he can put up numbers. He's already broken his record in a season. So that's great to see. In terms of him being there next season, yes, I do see him in that spot in the top 4 next season. If you're going to get someone in free agency, it's going to be someone at a cheap contract for a year deal, maybe 2. If you're going to trade for someone, it's got to fit the age range, right? Like Leslie said, you don't just do it because you want a warm body. You will have to overpay. But when I say overpay, it's not a lot, but it'll probably make you uncomfortable. But there aren't many teams out there that are bomb dwellers looking to get rid of right-handed defensemen, kind of like how we did with Philip Perron going to Vancouver. So like I said, it has to make sense for the Wings. Philip Perron, when we traded him, he was 25, 26, still is. It's only been a week. So to me, it looks like that Yzerman either wants someone who's 24 and under, who has more, leverage when it comes to negotiations and contract signings. Yeah. Or, just like Leslie said, you use your draft picks and you draft someone and then you develop them that way, and you just kind of ride the waves as time moves on. I don't think that there's anything wrong with using 5 left-handed defensemen. Is that my preferred thing to do? No. If I can decrease it down to 4, that would be great. And I think one thing that kind of stings a little bit less is the fact that Chason is a right-handed shooter. So if that's someone that you can bring on next season, that helps a little bit. You got Lucas Raymond who shoots right. Dosset, if he can somehow make it in, I believe he shoots right. So shooting right seems to be a problem in the league as a whole. Parents really need to start telling their kids to shoot right, not just left. I don't understand how that trend started. Like, if you're a righty, I don't know why you shoot left. Just feels weird to me. But this is coming from a guy who never really had the opportunity to play a lot of hockey, just a lot of street hockey and pond hockey. So, but yeah, no, I like it. And that's, I think that you can keep them in the top 4 for next season, just ride it out. And then you just get someone for a year at a league minimum, or maybe for like around $1 million, and just place them on the 3rd and just get some depth if you have to. Cause yeah, the Red Wings don't have many opportunities or, prospects, I guess you could say, coming up through the pipeline in right-handed D. And there's some good ones in this year's draft. So if Yzerman could take one with, either of the first 2 first-round picks or 3 of his second-round picks, that would be great. So Derek has gone away. I really don't know what's going on, but he has really bad internet, he says, and he wishes everyone good night. But that's pretty much all for us today, Leslie. The last thing that I do want to touch on, late news, Matt Luff earlier today has been recalled to the Detroit Red Wings on emergency loan basis. No news has come out as to why that is, if there's an injury or whatnot. So we're just going to have to wait and see for that. If that comes out later tonight after this recording or early tomorrow, I will make a mini clip because I know how much you guys really enjoy those. So yes, 3 to 5 minute videos. Who would have thought? Not an hour and a half videos here. So, but final thoughts, Leslie?
Yeah, I actually, I do kind of want to go on a rant a little bit. Do I have permission to go off?
If these are your final thoughts, go on a rant.
These are my final thoughts. So, I understand this draft is very strong. I get that there's a lot of talent at the top. I know we've been in a rebuild a very long time, and we're used to trying to lose as much as possible. These people on the internet who are upset that the Wings beat Boston and are ruining their draft position, why do we still need to be losing as much as possible at this point in the rebuild? We're like, what are we, 4 or 5 years into this rebuild? Pretty much, I guess, whenever Stevie Y took over. We are not in a position where we need to just tear down everything every season and lose as much as possible. I mean, if you want to root for a team that is just interested in doing nothing but lose, and lose to get a tiny chance at getting, that pot at the end of the rainbow named Bedard, go root for Anaheim. Go root for Columbus. And that's nothing against those teams, those franchises, or their fan bases, but they're in a rebuild. At this point, we have the young core together. We've got Raymond, Sider, Larkin. You can throw Bergeron in there too, and we'll have Edvinsson and Kosa coming up. That's our group. And our window's coming. At this point in the rebuild, there is no benefit in losing as much as possible. No benefit whatsoever. This team needs to have more games like they just had this past weekend. They need to keep that up moving into the next season. And when they get some more help from either free agents or the young guys who will come onto this team and make an impact, that's fantastic. They'll continue that momentum. But at this point in the rebuild, to try and get those top guys at the top of the draft, which I understand how nice that would be to get them. Believe me, if we somehow won the lottery this year, I'd be through the roof. But at this point, losing as much as possible will do nothing but hurt the team in the long run. So please, for the love of God, stop rooting for the team to lose. Stop it. This team could be in the second wildcard spot right now, and people will be like, no, you need to lose out in the season. Michkov, Bedard, shut up. I don't care. I love them. I would love to see them on our team, but I don't want to go through what it takes to get them. Rant's over.
Yeah, no, and that, Leslie, never apologize for rants because that's what we're here for. This is why we do this, right? Like
Well, I'm not apologizing for shit.
This is our space. You guys come to listen to us on your own free will. So unfortunately for you guys, if that's how you guys want to take it, you do have to listen to it. But Leslie's right,
yes,
though, I mean, like, Leslie, like for me, for someone like, do I want to see the Red Wings lose every game? No, but I definitely want them to get the best pick in the draft as possible. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to get mad if they win.
I'm excited
that they win. A win's a win, and that's what you want.
Of course.
And that helps only for the players. I know that doesn't really help us, but losing all the games to move down those extra spots, it's really not going to do us any favors. And I want to go back to the season, what was it, the 2019-20 season where we were last in the league. Mm-hmm. People were upset by that, and guess what happens? We didn't get the number 1 overall pick. We got bounced to 4th. So it just goes to show you guys that you guys need to remind yourselves that doing worse does not guarantee you the best pick. It's just how it works, unfortunately, in the NHL.
No,
if you guys have issues with that, yeah, I would take that up with Bettman if you got him on speed dial. I'm probably going to cut that next that and as well as this. So, but yes, I don't know what happened to Derek. He showed back up for a little bit, but my final thoughts, if that's all you got, Leslie, is that go Red Wings. I'm proud that the boys had a great weekend. It looked like that they really did put out a wonderful effort out there on the ice. In these next 16 games, I really do hope nothing but the best for them and hope, they can keep continuing to at least improve themselves as players as a whole, if not in the standings, if they can't do it there. So, I'm really looking forward to, these last games, before the summer hits and, there's not really much to talk about. So enjoy it while you can, fans, honestly. But I'm going to end it there. As always, once again, thank you for joining us tonight on this episode, wherever you're watching, morning, day, or night. Make sure that if you are new, that you do hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you're always smashing that like button for us. It really does go a long way. And as well, make sure to leave a comment if you want. It really does go a long way for us as well, helping us create content, like I said at the start of the video as well. So it gives us fresh ideas, give us your feedback on what you thought. So once again, as always, people, thank you once again for joining us. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next one. Go Red Wings.
Go Red Wings, and I can't wait for draft time so I can educate y'all on how deep this draft is and how no matter where we finish, we're going to get a stud.
What Leslie said, folks. Take